Coming in Facebook, coming in YouTube, getting ready to start my show, Jimmy Rants, over on Instagram right over here. We always go live at 11 a.m. Eastern time, so it's almost that time. T-minus 2.5 minutes, it looks like. So thank you for being here today. Gonna address a topic that is kind of out there right now that nobody wants to talk about, which is right in my lane of what I like to talk about, is all the things nobody else wants to talk about. So you don't want to talk about it, everybody else? Okay, Jimmy Rants, here we come. So, hello Norma, hello David, thank you guys for being here today. Got a great show in store for you guys. And yeah, fun stuff out there. I was just thinking about next week is my last week of the year. And so I finish up the rest of this week, tomorrow and Friday with Jimmy Rants. And then my podcast tomorrow, and then next week the 5 Jimmy Rants and my podcasts in the middle of the week. And then next Saturday is my last day of the year, and I go away for 2 months, at least 2 months. I've talked about this before. It's definitely going to be at least 2 months. It might have to be longer, but we'll see. What's up, Hank? Thanks for being here today. Come on in, guys, over on YouTube. I see you guys over there. Nobody's talking to me over there yet, but thank you for being here today as well. And we're going to start my show, Jimmy Rants, over here right at about a minute. We will be starting Jimmy Rants over on Instagram. But yeah, just kind of going through life. So anyway, back to what I was saying. Next week is my last week that I'll be doing work in 2020, and then I'm going away for 2 months. So I've got this idea. I haven't even talked to my web guy, Hank, about it. So Hank, listen up. Let me know what you think about this idea. So I thought, okay, since I'm leaving next week, why don't I do a giveaway all week long? Hello, Shirley, over on YouTube. A giveaway, kind of a farewell freebies kind of giveaway all week long. Every Jimmy Rants, I will randomly choose one person who is on the live to give a free, any of my books. You just tell me which book you want. I'll autograph it and send it to you in the mail. Let's see, what else could I do? Every post that I write, same thing. If somebody comments on the post, then let that be the eligible, and then again, randomly kind of give away. And maybe on that Ask Me Anything that Friday, invite people to come in and just do lots of giveaways that day. So I'm in the mood to do that if you guys are game. I do have 7 books with a major publisher, which I think would be, any of them, whichever one you don't have. I've got them. I've got like a little stack of them over here on my front porch that I can just grab, sign them, and get them out in the mail to you. And that would be kind of my gift to you as I'm saying goodbye for the year. So anyway, I just kind of thought of that about 3 minutes ago, Hank. So work on a graphic for that. Was it farewell freebies? I think is a nice little ring to it. Farewell freebies. And maybe for that Ask Me Anything episode, farewell freebie Friday. Yes, I'm very much with the alliteration. So hello, Crystal. Thanks for being here. Okay, let's get this show on the road today about this topic that we're going to talk about here. And here we go. How do you have conversations about conspiracy theories and truth? Find out the details here today on Jimmy Rants. Click on that little box down there in the corner. It'll take you straight to IGTV for today's episode. JimmyRants.com is the website, and as always, you can engage live in the content. You got to go follow me, though. I'm over on Instagram. I am at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, engage live. We are here Monday through Friday, right here, 11 a.m. Eastern time, every single weekday. So thank you guys for being here today on Jimmy Rants. We also simulcast live over here on my Facebook page. What's up, guys? And then finally over on my YouTube channel. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay right here on Instagram. It goes right up on IGTV just as soon as this is over. So thank you if you're watching this on replay. I want to give a quick shout out to 2 teenagers. I just found out they are watching the show and they are big fans of my show. I don't know how an old fart like me connects with late teenagers, but I love it. It's Gracie, and her boyfriend, Alex is his name, are both big fans, watch these all the time. So thank you guys. Thank you for watching. I know them. They live locally at the car wash I go to. They work there. So shout out to my new fans. Thank you guys for watching so much. We also put the replay up over on YouTube. So if you type in the keyword Jimmy Rants, you will find the show. Today is Wednesday. So on Wednesday on the Living La Vida Low Carb show, I always have an interview guest. And so we always put it as a Jimmy Rants bonus episode in video form. Today I have Jessica Vicker. She is a registered nurse and a health coach, health and wellness coach. And she and I had a great conversation about all kinds of things. She's very much low carb keto, understands the principles involved there, and we just went deep. And she is a hoot and a handy, as we say in the South. Definitely go check out that interview over on YouTube as a bonus episode of Jimmy Rants, or you can listen to the podcast, llvlc.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And then finally, pop on over here to jimmyrants.com. That is the official website for this show. You can see all the past episodes, and if you like what I do here, you can definitely support my work through Patreon or PayPal, and a donation of any amount would be greatly appreciated. Okay, you guys, I want to talk about something that maybe you've wanted to circumnavigate this in your life, but you didn't know how. And you're hearing all kinds of things out there, especially here in 2020, that are rumors, conspiracy theories. I mean, we've heard the gamut. There's been all kinds of things put out there. Oh, the coronavirus is traveling along 5G, and it's, oh, okay, that one's kind of whacked. And just all kinds of like little things that don't really sound like they could be true at face value. But you've got people in your life who believe them wholeheartedly, that believe a lot of these kind of crazy ideas. And you might be wondering, okay, how do I determine what's true and help them, most importantly, how do I help them determine what's true, what's not true, and kind of circumnavigate that conversation? Because here's how it usually goes down. Oh my gosh, did you hear that Bill Gates is trying to kill everybody in the world with his vaccine? And if we take this vaccine for the virus, it's going to kill most of the population. Don't you know he's a eugenist that's trying to kill off the population? Oh my God, and it's going to be horrible if we take this. And they just have this conniption fit over their chosen conspiracy theory. And so the wrong thing to do is kind of go, yeah, you look kind of crazy right now, right? So instead of just dismissing them, there's strategies you can use. And I found an article, guys. This was in popsugar.com, which they got some decent articles. Sometimes they're a little bit out there, but today's is pretty good. And it's called How to Talk to Family Members About Conspiracy Theories So They'll Actually Listen. And I think what happens too often in society is we hear something that sounds off the wall, and our first inclination is dismiss it and dismiss the person telling it, rather than trying to have a conversation to get that person to think. Now, that's a whole nother conversation of whether or not people will think. A lot of people, and I've done some Jimmy Rants on this before, a lot of people, they just hear something, and the first inclination is not to question it and to put it through the thought process. The first thing, an inclination, is to believe it. And we know this from psychology. People, when they hear things, the very first thing they do is not contemplate it, but they automatically embrace it as absolutely true. And so that's what's happening with a lot of these conspiracy theories that are out there this year. And quite frankly, what used to be called conspiracy theory in the past, some of that stuff's true this year, you guys. Like some of the stuff that we would have just automatically dismissed, oh my gosh, some of this stuff is actually turning out to be true. So let's read this article. And if you just joined us, yes, we have all kinds of people in our lives talking about conspiracy theories, truth, and you might be wondering, how in the world do you have a conversation with those people that's productive, that's going to get somewhere, because the last thing you want to do is just dismiss them. That doesn't help them if they're wrong. And if you dismiss it, but they have an element of truth that they could teach back to you, maybe you're missing out on something. So I think this is a good article. They jade it more towards disproving those who have conspiracy theory thoughts, but it could definitely go both ways, and I'll give my commentary along the way. All right, here we go. Discussing politics and current events with family members isn't always easy. Despite shared genetics, our identities, experiences, and generational differences can all contribute to vastly diverse opinions, which can in turn lead to a heated argument. You've been in any arguments with some family members, friends, over things that are said about stuff going on this year? Yeah, a lot of people have. Mix in a global pandemic, the 2020 election, and the rise of conspiracy theories, and well, we can understand if you want to keep the politics off the dinner table. While most political topics are polarizing these days, conspiracy theories have proven to be particularly contentious. Due to the nature of these theories, it can be difficult to even open a dialogue around them. So if you're worried that a family member is a little too intrigued by a conspiracy theory, here are ways to start the conversation and to keep it going. And this is important, guys. Like, it's easy, it's the lazy way out. If you don't care about that person, it's the lazy way out just to dismiss them and move on with your life. And then they feel emboldened because nobody's challenging them. And it's easy to do that, but you're not helping them. What if they are caught up in a conspiracy theory that has no validity whatsoever? What do? Do you want to have them keep believing a lie? I don't think so. So you want to confront them. And in this article, they share some good tips towards the end about how you do that in a loving way and not in a accusatory way. So how do I start a conversation about this with my family member? People who gravitate towards conspiracy theories are looking for something that helps them find a good side in situations that are ambiguous and confounding. This is according to Jenny Tigrotenhuis. Tigrotenhuis? She's got a funky last name. Tegrotenhuis is how it's spelled. A certified Gottman relationship therapist and writer. It's important to remember that as you start your conversation. So the reason people turn to these conspiracy theories and really anything that goes against a narrative is when that narrative is so convoluted, people don't know how to wrap their heads around it. And we've seen that this year with all the conflicting information about COVID-19, with all the information that's being put out there on all kinds of subjects. People are just confused. And when you're confused and when there's no clarity being given by the people that are supposed to be the purveyors of knowledge on that subject, vis-a-vis with COVID-19, that's Dr. Fauci and all the rest, then people start to fill in the blanks with all these things that seem plausible. Now, plausible doesn't mean correct, but plausible is something that people have to do just so their brains can wrap their heads around what's going on. So one of the key indicators to success in reaching someone who believes a conspiracy theory is how you approach them. You can predict within seconds how the conversation is going to end by how it starts. He suggests approaching, he being a family therapist named JD, a licensed social worker trying to remain anonymous. He wanted to give tips for this story. He suggests approaching these conversations calmly and openly. A person's tone, particularly an aggressive or argumentative one, can activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is designed to protect us. So imagine this. Imagine someone says, "Oh, did you hear coronavirus is traveling over 5G network? Oh my gosh, can you believe that? That's why so many people are getting it," and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. The last thing you want to say is, "Man, that is the most whack thing I have ever heard in my life. What are you talking about? You crazy?" They're not going to take too well to that. They're saying remain calm and remain open. And we're going to have some of the questions that you ask here in a minute, but don't dismiss it. Like, that's the last thing you want to do in that circumstance, is just quickly dismiss it, invalidate them. And that's a human nature thing. We want to be validated in what we believe. And if the first thing that someone does when they tell you this thing they're excited about, they are interested in, if the first thing you do is say, "Nope, that doesn't make any sense, that's not important, you're invalidating not just the data that they gave you, good or bad, true or false, but the person. And that's important to remember. It's why remaining calm, why remaining intrigued and open to that family member, that friend who's telling you these things is so important. From a neurological standpoint, a negative tone can activate the fight or flight response, which creates a headspace where we're stressed, agitated, and far less open to hearing what the other person has to say. So if you have a negative tone from the start, they're going to feel that, and they're just going to totally hear Charlie Brown's teacher wah, 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 with the rest of what you say. And it will make them angry and upset, stressed, agitated, all those things on the inside. And they're not going to think favorably upon you because you didn't just dismiss their idea, you dismissed them. And if you care about this person who's making these claims, don't dismiss them. Hear them, love them, understand them, try to see where they're coming from, which again, we've got some questions you can ask them here in a minute we'll get to. They describe this phenomenon in which one person's emotions trigger similar emotions in the other as an emotional contagion. So if you say something and it triggers a response in that somebody else, it's a contagion, emotional contagion. So to prevent this, they suggest avoiding you statements. Statements that begin with the pronoun you, and they sound accusatory and emotionally triggering right from the start, and using I statements instead. They recommend starting with something positive like a compliment or observation. Oh, wow, I can see you've really done your research on this, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say. Now, see how that makes them go, oh, wow, somebody actually didn't dismiss me this time. Maybe they'll listen, and see, they'll be receptive to you that way. Not only will your approach be a lot softer, but you'll likely be speaking in a way that's calmer and unlikely to activate their parasympathetic response. While conspiracy theories can be an inflammatory subject for a lot of people, it's best to start the conversation with a calm, open tone. The adage is, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And people will pick up on that vibe. If you're very skeptical and it kind of sounds like you're snarky in your voice, they're going to feel that. Even no matter what you're saying, they will feel it just in your tone. So make sure your tone is calm, cool, calm, and collected at the beginning. That way, when they start saying what they're going to say, you don't immediately laugh or dismiss or become agitated and try to make them feel anything but heard. I think that's why people have these conspiracy theories and why they believe them so strongly is they feel like they've not been heard. They feel like they've not gotten the answers that they've wanted. And so the first thing they want to do is fill in the blanks. And if the first thing you do is destroy those blanks they've filled in without really hearing them all the way out, they feel disrespected. And that turns a lot of people off. So what strategies should I use when I'm talking to my family members about conspiracy theories? One way we can have sympathy for folks that believe in conspiracy theories is to understand that they're looking for certainty in the depth of all the uncertainty. They're scared and it's manifesting in a different way. So a lot of us have gone through this year and we've had so much of the same, obviously we've all gone through the same circumstance, but how we deal with it is different. Some people go, okay, well, what's happening is happening. Can't really do much about it. I don't want to question a whole lot about it. I'm just going to do what I'm told and go through the motions of life, and that's that. Other people go, well, wait a minute. My life has been upended. I lost my job. I need an explanation. This don't make any damn sense at all. I need to know what's going on. And so then they seek out information online and they come across one of these conspiracy theories, which again, I think conspiracy theory can have a negative or a positive connotation. Most of the time negative because people think, oh, it's implausible. A conspiracy theory, okay, it kind of could have a sense of truth to it, but in the end, it's not very real. But again, a lot of those things that have been put out there are coming true this year. So it's kind of blurring those lines even more between what is conspiracy theory and what's not. but hearing them out and understanding that they're scared and this is how they're dealing with it is key for you. So even if you and your family member couldn't disagree more about this conspiracy theory itself, it's still important to approach them with empathy and respect. I cannot underscore this enough. If you care about that person, this issue will not supersede that love for that person, because that person's important to you. Family member, spouse, friend, coworker. If you care about that other person, then you will do all you can to show that empathy and that respect that they deserve. They may have latched on to a conspiracy theory as a mechanism for coping with all the unknowns around COVID-19, around the political election, around society in general. They suggest cultivating your own humility and demonstrating a curiosity about why the theory appeals to someone, and you need to use open-ended questions. So open-ended question means not yes or no answers. So, do you really believe this? Yes. You can't possibly think that that's a good idea, right? Yes. So it's like if you say yes or no questions, and I learned this when I worked in retail. They always said, don't say, can I help you find something? They would just say, no, thank you. But if you say, what can I help you find? No doesn't make sense in that context. So it kind of makes them open up a little more. Same here. You need open-ended questions. So they give a list of some questions that I think are pretty good. Can you help me understand why this appeals to you? So if they're giving a conspiracy theory and you're hearing them and they've told the whole story and they've gone through the whole shebang, at the very end, say, oh, so help me understand why is this such an interest to you? And so it kind of gets them to open up. And then, does this relate to something that happened in your past? Do you have some personal history with this particular conspiracy theory that you believe? So again, you're getting them to open up to talk more about it. Is there a story behind how you came to believe this? So maybe they'll say, oh, I was scrolling on Facebook and I saw this information and then I looked up a website and I saw this and I saw this video. You should go watch the video and da-da-da-da-da. And then the last open-ended question, is there a disaster scenario that you are avoiding? So all really good open-ended questions to get them to kind of refine what it is that they actually believe about what they're sharing with you. So your job while they're doing that is to listen to their answers with an open mind, try to understand why they might find comfort in that conspiracy theory. So repeat their key phrases back to them so they know you're listening. So as they're telling you these things, you basically parrot back what you hear them saying. And that will trigger them to say, hey, they are hearing me. Oh, wow, they are listening to me. So when your family member feels you're open-hearted and you have interest, you now have a connection. And it's that connection which bridges the gap between them dismissing you and them embracing you. And this bridge of influence creates an opportunity for you now to share your differing viewpoint without turning them away, because you've already listened to them. You've already shown an understanding of, oh, okay, you understand where they're coming from. And when you approach with empathy and active listening, you can not only start, but continue to have this conversation that's very difficult. Because when you start navigating this conversation, when it comes to conspiracy theories and hard truths that people believe, it can be difficult. And see, here's the thing. What if you're the person who's believing something nobody else is believing? It doesn't mean the thing is wrong. There's a lot of things, again, in 2020 that we thought in the past were conspiracy theories that we now know are more true than we ever believed. And so you could be on that end of things trying to explain it to your family and friends and circle of influence. And so having that conversation to explain why you believe what you believe is so important. So what strategies should I avoid when talking with family members about these conspiracy theories? One of the most important behaviors to avoid in this conversation is calling them out. Don't call them out. Telling a family member or a friend who believes in a conspiracy theory that they're mad crazy, stupid, awkward, a fanatic, or anything like that is just bound to fail. People have a very good perception of themselves most of the time, and when you challenge that perception, it's only going to result in a defensive psychological process that will end in an even stronger, listen to this, when you do that to someone, they have a stronger reinforcement of that thing that they falsely believe. So if you're truly caring about that person and you're sure that what they're sharing with you is absolutely incorrect information and you're trying to reach them, the last thing you want to do is call them all those crazy names. Mad, crazy, stupid, awkward, fanatic. That's not going to reach them. People will have a triggered reaction, and in that reaction, it will only make them double down on what they already believe is true. Any attack, whether it's of their opinion or their integrity, reverses any progress that you've made. So remember, you've listened to everything they have to say, you've processed, you've parroted back, you've tried to show empathy and understanding and respect for that person. Then don't start your conversation with well, all that's whacked. That's not going to go over well. Not only would it shut down the conversation, but it can strengthen your family members' belief in the theory all the more. It's important to remember that they've likely embraced the theory because they have a psychological need in their brain, so needs order and meaning in all the midst of uncertainty and chaos. And I've done some Jimmy rants this year all about this, where because they haven't been crystal clear about all the things that we've been going through, people fill in those blanks. And when you're quiet and when you're not providing clarity and information that assures people that everything's going to be okay and assures them of like an ending and all this, the uncertainty and the unknown and the indefinite, and it's just kind of leaving us in hanging chaos, people have to do that as a coping mechanism in their brain to help deal with it. And we have to know that. And so that's why these things are so alluring for people. They're not doing it out of ignorance, so keep that in mind. They're not doing it out of obstinance, which is why showing them empathy and don't personally attack them is so important. It's so easy to attack somebody who believes something like that. So easy. Oh my God, I can't believe you. I thought you were a smart person, and here you are embracing the most idiotic thing I've ever heard in my life. What are you thinking? Snap to it. Get in real life. You know, all those things are just going to shut down their brain. And they're just going to believe those things all the more. Avoid making them feel small, stupid, or ashamed. Mocking them for believing will just increase their anxiety and their harm and harm their self-esteem even more. This behavior damages relationships, drives them further into the conspiracy theory, because then they'll go to the Facebook page they were on, the message board they were on. Well, I tried talking to my family and they just called me whacked. And then other people will chime in, oh yeah, my family did the same thing. We just have, I guess we're family now. And so it kind of bonds them even more to other people that believe these things, and you don't make progress. It destroys your chances of breaking through and building that bridge of influence. So when our self-identity is under threat, we'll go a long way to protect it, including adding our loved ones to the list of sheep that just can't see the truth. A lot of the people who are into conspiracy theories and truthism, that's kind of the code word they use. Well, I'm not going to be a sheeple, and that's what's being put out there. Try to stop us from reaching enlightenment or awakening. It can even, depending on the fervency of their belief, position you as someone who is so blind to the prescriptions of the theory that you're just a lost cause, which shuts down all further chances of conversation with them. Don't give up on anybody. And again, I'm going to flip the script on what's in this article. What if you are the person who doesn't believe in the conspiracy theory, but this other person has information and compelling evidence that makes it true? Like, see, that's another reason to go in these conversations with an open mind, is maybe they know something you don't know. You know, and there's a lot of people that say, well, if I don't see it on the network news, it must not be true. Oh, don't fool yourself on that one. The network news does not show you everything that's happening in the world. And 2020, again, has kind of revealed that in spades for us. Maybe you're on the other end of the conversation thinking you need to convince them why their belief is wrong. And maybe, just maybe, in the midst of that open, loving, respectful conversation, you find out, oh crap, I need to know about this information. So don't so readily dismiss it. Okay? It's easy to do that, but it's not going to help anybody. That's why it's crucial to avoid patronizing language and insults, attacking behavior in these conversations. The nature of conspiracy theories paired with the brain chemistry of self-perception will create the perfect cocktail to just drive someone away, or even worse, drive someone deeper into their conspiracy theory. So if the theory's wrong and you have evidence that proves it wrong, you can have this loving conversation with this person you care about and convince them otherwise. If they have something that they want to share that you think is a conspiracy theory, but then they've got compelling information that shows it's true, then you need to be willing to embrace that information as well. Empathy, respect, and understanding are the key on both sides, regardless. So if this person does have false information, they have a way to address this. Identifying and fighting misinformation can be challenging enough to do on our own. It becomes even more challenging when you're speaking with someone who believes in it firmly. So here are a few strategies for spotting and subsequently countering any misinformation you hear. Okay, so these are good strategies. If someone's sharing something that you know absolutely is wrong, you've done your research, you see what they're saying, and you know that what they're saying is not correct, here are things you can do. First off, vet the sources. Documents, text, images, and now even videos can be manipulated and edited. Even statistics can be tweaked in favor of someone's argument, which is why it's important to always be vigilant in scrutinizing the sources. And I will say, as someone who knows a little bit about kind of journalism integrity, you don't just rely on one source. You got to corroborate that evidence. And so good journalism, which should come into any... It's paused. Is it going to come back? It's paused on my Instagram. Come back. Journalism, if it has any integrity whatsoever, will corroborate the information with multiple sources. So don't just read one source and then that source is some very jaded website of fellow conspiracy theory people. That's not a good enough source. Get that source, okay, fine, but then corroborate it with other sources out there, and that's going to be helpful. So just know that there's always going to be an agenda on a lot of sites. Even like mainstream news sites don't always tell you the whole story, but definitely vet out what the sources are for the information about why they believe what they believe. Next, look for agreement amongst the experts. It's important to evaluate the sources we get our information from. Are they qualified to share? If so, how? And is their statement supported by other qualified experts in similar fields? If the answer is a resounding yes, it's likely you're dealing with misinformation. Oh, isn't a resounding yes, it's misinformation. I don't think that's necessarily true, because we've been thrown in our face all year long that we need to trust the science and trust the experts. You guys sick of that phrase already? Trust the science, trust the experts. Well, we know that there are other scientists doing science and medical professionals out there that are countering the narrative when it comes to COVID-19. And we know that they have been censoring some doctors because it goes against what that mainstream narrative is. So agreement amongst experts, if they all agree and they're all wrong, is it right? And yeah, Joshua's making a good point. Which experts? Which ones are we supposed to believe? The ones they throw in front of us on television, or the totality of everybody that has a qualification in the field? And that's been my problem. This is why conspiracy theories have latched on so hard. Why did they silence that group in Washington, D.C., a group of doctors. They silenced them. They took it down. They censored their video. They wouldn't let you hear the information they had to share. Why? They're experts. They were medical professionals. They're just as qualified as any other expert, sharing studies, sharing research, sharing data, who have similar medical qualifications. So that's a tough one there, looking for agreement amongst the experts. If we can't find the experts because they've been censored, how do you find them? How do you look for agreement? Next one, be aware of any self-interest. Does the source have something to gain from sharing this controversial information? Is there a material or immaterial benefit that they might get? While receiving a benefit doesn't always indicate misinformation, it's important to evaluate sources with this critique, particularly if they're sharing information that goes against the mainstream. Well, guess what? Guess who stands to benefit greatly on a COVID-19 vaccine? Think about it. Who is pushing a vaccine the hardest? Look at those people, okay? The people pushing the vaccine the hardest, people like Dr. Anthony Fauci. Oh, I'll get a vaccine, and you should too. That's what he told a group of kids in a little video, promo video, propaganda video, not that long ago. Bill Gates is pushing the vaccine. Well, guess what? Both of them have vested interests in a vaccine. Financial interests. Stand to make billions of dollars off of that. Are they unbiased? Is it a conspiracy theory to throw that out there, which is true? It's something to think about, but you got to be aware. They have an interest in mind. Not just the people spreading spreading the conspiracy theory that you think is a conspiracy theory. It's all kinds of things. And you have to vet those things out. And then the last one, check for primary sources. So if someone writes on Facebook that CNN said this and that requests a direct link to the original CNN story, you need to know that CNN story. Well, here's the problem too. Mainstream media isn't sharing everything. So what do? It's paused again. So what do you do when they say check for primary sources, but the primary sources aren't the full information? They say don't rely on hearsay without proof, and I agree with that. Show me where you got that information from, and I'll tell you how this manifests. Sometimes things will be put out there, and people will be, well, show me on the CDC where that number is. And usually the CDC has links that you can link to them, and you can put that information out there and let people decide for themselves. Like, none of this you should just believe at face value. Nobody's telling you to believe anything at face value. Always do your own research. There's plenty of people out there talking about this, linking to information. These are scientists. These are people that are qualified to be talking about this, and we should be listening to them along with what they're pushing down our throats in mainstream media. That's the boogeyman in all this, by the way, because social media has been fact-checking so many things. You guys see that when, well, because you mentioned COVID-19, we're going to put a little warning in here and send you to the CDC website, or they blur out the post. Well, this information has been found to be partially inaccurate, and then they give like a little link to some news story and some mainstream news thing and it's just become really nauseating, and it's hard to see all that happening and not think, okay, what are they trying to hide? What are they trying to prevent people from seeing? And in my opinion, I think it means a lot of these things that have been thought of as conspiracy theories have a lot more truth to them than they want to let on. But if you can hide that information from the public, it prevents people from confirming the conspiracy theory is true. So keep that in mind as well. If your family member becomes defensive, remind them that these strategies should be used to evaluate most of the information we receive, not just the information around the conspiracy theory. Misinformation is nothing new. What's different today is that the technological developments of recent decades now allow more people to spread misinformation much faster and to massive audience. And I would say, not just spread misinformation, but spread information. When there's information that gets out there, it gets out there. It doesn't have to be misinformation just because it's not being reported on. The likelihood of being exposed to misinformation is extremely high. And I would say the likelihood of being able, if the tech companies don't get involved, being able to access any information at all, misinformation or otherwise, any information is all the more prevalent today than it's ever been, which is why when stuff gets out there, it's almost hard for these tech companies to keep it all at bay. Now, they have these fact checkers and they have these scrubbers all over all of the social media channels, and they don't hesitate to yank anything that they think would be incriminating towards them, towards the narrative. Essentially, if your family member thinks you're condemning them, remind them anyone can be exposed. Using these critiques to explore a variety of information as an example, so you're framing these strategies as helpful rather than using them as an attack. So how does talking with family members about conspiracy theories differ from talking with your friends? So all of that I just said was with your family members. With friends, it's likely that you already share common ground with your friends, so you can share things like social ideas without stirring defensiveness and having an argument. Family relationships may not have developed this. So they're saying with your friends, you probably are already pretty like-minded with your friends. So if it's rare that you're friends with somebody that would be so radically different in thinking than you, but some people do like those kinds of friends that do think different than them. You didn't choose your family, but you did choose your friends. With family, there are different kinds of repercussions as well, because you're kind of stuck with your family. You can let friends go, but you're stuck with your family. Many of us already have, or at least feel comfortable engaging in, having conversations with our friends about these kind of topics. We've chosen them as friends for a reason. We have similar views, and all of that will play a role in the choice of your friends. If you and a friend have a major disagreement, you can choose to dissolve that friendship. Such a choice has different and often deeper consequences when you're a family member. Choosing to engage in such a controversial conversation can affect your position in the family and how your family sees you, and not everyone's in that position to take that risk. Ultimately, you can't win the debate if you lose your relationship. If you care about your family member and want the chance to continue the dialogue with them, you might have to make some concessions during your debate, and that's okay. When you start being calm, approachable in your tone, speak with empathy, have curiosity and respect, avoid personally attacking or insulting, you start to build that bridge of influence, the same bridge that will hopefully lead your family member out of believing it. And or if that person has information you need to know, maybe your skepticism turns into belief if they convince you. I hate that they only made this a one-sided conversation in this piece, because I do think it cuts both ways. Don't just dismiss somebody that's sharing things that are not in the mainstream narrative, because a lot of what we're hearing in the mainstream narrative this year, you and I both know is crap. They're not telling us everything. And so maybe you're one of the people that has just automatically believed everything you've seen on TV and nothing else. Maybe it's time you open your mind, and then you're the person who has the information that's viewed as outside the mainstream. Your role is to use all these same skills: calm, approachable, speak with empathy, curiosity, and respect, and don't insult or attack, and build the bridge of influence, so that then you can have the conversation and perhaps convince them of why you believe what you believe. This is planting seeds, is what they say in this story. You might not see results right away, but by using all these strategies, you can hope that something will take root. So again, this was from popsugar.com, how to talk to family members about conspiracy theories so they actually listen. Go check it out, you guys. Great article. Again, they pointed it in the direction of, if they don't believe the mainstream narrative, convince them that their conspiracy theory is wrong. I think it does cut both ways. And that's what's making this a little more difficult, is some of these things, guys, if you have eyes this year and you're not just paying attention to the mainstream media, you know there are lots of things going on behind the scenes that isn't exactly on the up and up. If you did not know that already, I hope I'm not breaking news to you that there are things going on outside of what we're seeing. And if you don't already know that, hopefully this puts it on the radar screen that at least you should consider. And so when you hear somebody saying something that seems so off the wall, oh my gosh, how do you believe that? Listen, have empathy, have respect, especially if it's somebody that's a friend or a family member. Do all the things, love on them, confirm that you're hearing what they say, and maybe they have information that you had not heard before, and maybe you shift your thinking. That's the way it should be, right? All right, let's see what you guys have to say. We're going to start here first on Instagram, then over to Facebook, finally over to YouTube. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website, and that's where you can support my work, Patreon or PayPal. Thank you so much for being here today. That girl from Brooklyn says, you don't want to come off as patronizing. Yes, they said as much in the article that a patronizing tone will be heard from a mile away. So most certainly do not sound like you're, oh yeah, you believe 5G is carrying the coronavirus? Oh wow, oh. And no, that won't go over well. Don't be patronizing, because people, that's worse than saying nothing at all. Joshua says, I find experts I trust before the crap hits the fan. Yes, and seek out alternate sources of information. Like sometimes we have a strong confirmation bias of only going to sources of information that we know, that we always go to, and no other sources. I encourage you to go to as many sources of information as possible. That's why I've been PO'd about all of this censorship in 2020. They are removing sources of information that would be great to see. And if they censor it and they pull it offline, you can't find the video on YouTube, you can't find the post on Instagram or Facebook. It makes it difficult when you're trying to share the information that you know with others because it no longer exists. That's what's wrong this year. And you're right, Joshua. Find the experts you trust long before everything hits the fan, so that when it does hit the fan, you've got people that you trust and know way ahead of time. In Canada, our government is sneaking new controversial laws in while everyone is distracted. And Joshua, that's called Wag the Dog, by the way. There was a famous movie, I think it was in the 90s, when Wag the Dog came out. And yes, the idea is to distract them with something that's got all their attention, which COVID-19, the race relations stuff, the presidential election stuff, all of those things are wagging the dog of things going on behind the scenes. And again, that kind of sounds nutty to people. What do you mean going on behind the scenes? They would never do things behind our back without telling us what's going on. Believe what you want to believe. But if you believe that, I've got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. Thank you, Instagram. Let me pop over here now to my Facebook page. What's up, Facebook? See what you have to say. This one was a doozy. Well, thank you, Candace. I do like doing doozy Jimmy rants. I sometimes feel when someone parrots what I'm saying as a form of dismissal by way of patronizing. That's true. I suppose when you parrot it back, you're not being snarky. Oh, so you believe in 5G carrying the coronavirus? Oh. Yeah, that would suck. You must show a genuine want for understanding. If you're not genuine, some people will feel that. Oh, everybody feels that when you're not genuine, especially a highly sensitive or anxious person. Really, anybody does, but you're right. Highly sensitive and anxious people for sure feel it when you're patronizing to them. And you might as well say nothing at all. If you're going to patronize someone, that is the height of disrespect for that individual. So don't do that. But thank you, Facebook. Now let's see what YouTube has to say. YouTube decided to be a mute today. Thank you for watching though, you guys, but nobody had anything to say? Really? All right. So yeah, we got people out there that believe conspiracy theory, and I'm going to remind you, if you are skeptical of conspiracy theories, don't just dismiss them at face value. This article I read from today was all about trying to convince the person that believes in the conspiracy theory that they're wrong. But what if what you believe in the mainstream narrative is actually wrong, and the conspiracy theory has an element of truth to it that makes it absolutely true, but you didn't know about it? So don't have such a closed mind that you can't learn from each other. And I think that's a lesson in and of itself. Don't ever have such a rigid worldview that you're not open to having conversations with people you know and love and respect, and especially people you know, love, and respect. Family members, friends, people in your life that you in your everyday life always have conversations with and everything, and then they happen to bring this thing to you. The first thing you should do is go, oh wow, tell me more. And as they tell you more, maybe your eyes get opened. Maybe you realize, oh crap, I didn't know any of this stuff. So remain open-minded with love, respect, kindness for each other, and who knows, you might just learn something in the process. That's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website, and as always, you can engage live in the content. Come follow me right here. I'm on Instagram at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, engage live. We are here Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, so thank you so much for being here today. We also simulcast live on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you miss a live, you can watch it on replay right here on Instagram. IGTV is where it's found. Just as soon as this is over, it'll go right up on IGTV. We also put the past episodes up over on YouTube. Type in a keyword Jimmy Rants, you will find the show. We do have a Jimmy Rants bonus episode for you over on my YouTube channel. Jessica Vieker was my guest today on the Livin' La Vida Low Carb show. And we had a wonderful conversation about all kinds of things. She is a low carb nurse and health and wellness coach, so go check her out. And then finally, pop on over to the official website for this show. It is JimmyRants.com, and you can see all the past episodes while you're there. And then if you like what I do here, Patreon, PayPal links are right there at JimmyRants.com. All right, guys, that's it for now. We'll be back again tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So until next time, we'll see you then. All right. Yeah, it paused twice in the middle of that show. It said connection weak, and it said pause due to weak connection. I'm like, ugh. So when I stop talking in the middle of that, if I keep talking and then it comes back on the final recording, it cuts me off while it's paused. And so I always have to wait to make sure that it's back. So fun stuff, huh? And now it's not downloading the videos, so some days it just gives me hell, and that's okay. You move on with life. So all right, guys, thanks for being here today. We will see you tomorrow.